He came back on a Tuesday, same as always. Men like him never pick dramatic days. They pick ordinary ones, when your guard is down and the laundry's still in the dryer and you haven't had your second cup of coffee yet. I heard his key in the lock before I heard his voice. That sound, metal scraping metal, used to make my stomach drop. Not from fear exactly. More like the way your body braces before bad weather. You don't know yet if it'll pass or stay. You just know it's coming. Marvy, he called from the hallway. He always shortened my name. Marvelous is what my mother called me, her little joke, because I came out screaming so loud the nurses in the next ward heard it. Marvin is what's on my birth certificate. But he called me Marvy, like I was something small and manageable, like I was his. I didn't answer. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my reading glasses on and a cup of chamomile going cold in front of me, and I didn't say a word. He found me anyway. He always did. You didn't call back, he said, setting his jacket on the chair he always used. The chair I'd asked him not to use because the leg was loose and he was not a small man. No, I said, I didn't. He looked at me the way he did when he was deciding whether to be wounded or annoyed. He settled on wounded. He usually did. I've been gone 4 days, Marvy. I know, I said. I counted. I should go back further. That's how these things work. You can't explain the ending without the beginning, and the beginning, in my case, started with a leaky bathroom faucet and a man who said he knew how to fix it. I was 62 years old. I'd been a widow for 3 years. Long enough that the casserole stopped coming, and people stopped asking how I was doing, and started just assuming I was fine. My husband, rest his soul, had been a quiet man. The kind who fixed things without being asked and never once raised his voice. He left me a paid-off house on Clement Street, a modest life insurance policy, and the habit of good tea in the mornings. I was not rich, but I was steady. The faucet had been dripping since February. My neighbour across the street, the one with the 2 loud wind chimes and the very opinionated cat, mentioned she had a friend who did handyman work. Reasonable rates, she said. Honest. She used the word honest, like it meant something, and I suppose I let it. He came on a Saturday. Broad shoulders, easy smile, the kind of confidence that comes from never having been told no by anyone who mattered. He fixed the faucet in 40 minutes, charged me less than he should have, stayed for coffee longer than he needed to. His name was Stuart. He was 66, twice divorced, and had what I would later understand was a talent for arriving exactly when a woman was most likely to let her guard down. 3 years out from loss, 6 months into loneliness. I was practically a target. I don't say that to be cruel to myself. I say it because it's true, and the truth is the only thing I have left to give you. We dated for a year. He was attentive at first, in the particular way that men like him are attentive, always there, always watching, always making you feel like the most important person in the room and the most foolish one at the same time. He had a way of complimenting me that left a small bruise. You look wonderful for your age. That colour would be better on someone younger, but you pull it off. Little things, nothing you could point to. Nothing that would sound like anything if you repeated it out loud. He moved in the following spring. Not all at once. That's never how it happens. First a toiletry bag, then a drawer, then his truck in my driveway like it had always been there, like I'd always wanted it there, like I'd asked. I hadn't asked, but I also hadn't said no. And in the space between those two things, Stuart built himself a life at my expense. The first time I understood what was happening, I was standing in line at my own bank. I'd gone in to check on my savings account, a habit I'd kept since my husband died, just to feel grounded. The teller, a young man with a trainee badge, looked at my account and said, "Oh, the joint holder was in last week." He added himself to the savings alert system. I didn't say anything. I smiled the way you smile when you're not sure what else to do. Then I went home and I thought about it all night. Stuart had never asked me. He'd mentioned once that it would be easier for him to help me manage things if he had access to the alerts. I'd said I'd think about it. I never said yes. But there it was. The next morning, I called the bank and had it removed. I told them if anyone other than me tried to make account changes, to call me first. No exceptions. Stuart never mentioned it. I never brought it up. But something in me shifted that day, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know I'd been ignoring. I started keeping a list after that, not on my phone where he could see it. On a small yellow legal pad I kept inside a cookbook he would never open. The one about Filipino cuisine my daughter-in-law had given me years ago. He'd once called it fancy nothing when he saw it on the shelf. He never touched it again. The list started small. Savings alert. Removed his access. March 14. Utilities. Still in my name only. Good. Car title. Mine. Check. Then it grew. Called lawyer. First appointment April 3rd. Reviewed deed. My name only. Keep original copy with sister. I am not a dramatic person. I don't enjoy confrontation. I spent 31 years in school administration, and I learned early that the people who yell rarely get what they want, and the people who document everything almost always do. So I documented. Quietly. Steadily. The way you do when you know the game is long. His daughter showed up in May. I'd met her twice before. Holidays, a birthday, and she'd always been pleasant enough in the way of people who are pleasant because it cost them nothing. That day she arrived unannounced, carrying a bottle of wine and wearing the smile of someone who had rehearsed the visit in the car. Her name was Kelsey. She was 41, divorced, and worked in property management. I remembered that later. Property management. I was just in the neighborhood, she said. She was not just in the neighborhood. She lived 40 minutes away. Stuart wasn't home. I offered her iced tea and she accepted, and we sat on the back porch, and she said all the right things about the garden and the porch in the neighborhood, and then she said, very casually, Dad mentioned you two have been talking about the future. Has he? I said. He worries about you being alone, in a house this size. She looked at the yard like she was calculating square footage. It's a lot to maintain. I manage, I said. Of course you do. She smiled warmly. He just wants to make sure you're protected. If something happened, you know. That's very kind of him, I said. I did not say, I have a son. I did not say, I have a lawyer, a financial advisor, a sister who has my power of attorney, and a legal pad in a cookbook your father would never think to open. I did not say any of that. I poured her more tea and let her talk until she ran out of things to say. When she left, I went inside and added a line to my list. Kelsey visit. Fishing. Gave nothing. The cruise was his idea. He brought it up the way he brought up most things he'd already decided, as a suggestion loosely wrapped in generosity. I booked us something, he said one evening, setting a printed itinerary on the coffee table like a peace offering. 7 nights, the Caribbean. You've always said you wanted to go. I had said that, once, 4 years ago before I knew him, to my friend Bertie over lunch. I certainly hadn't said it to him. I looked at the itinerary. Both names at the top. Departure in 8 weeks. How did you pay for this? I asked. Don't worry about that, he said, which was never an answer. I called the cruise line the next morning while he was at the hardware store. The payment had been made with a card linked to my main checking account. A card I hadn't given him, a card I'd left in my desk drawer, which he had apparently considered close enough to permission. I cancelled the booking. I asked for a refund. The woman on the phone was efficient and kind. She didn't ask questions. I was grateful. Then I went to my bank, closed that checking account entirely, and opened a new one. New number. New card. No one else's name anywhere on it. That afternoon I called my lawyer. I'd like to move faster, I told her. On all of it. How fast? She asked. Before he figures out there's nothing left to take, I said. She was quiet for a moment. Then I'll have the paperwork ready by Friday. When Stuart came home that evening, he went straight to the living room and turned on the news without saying hello. He did that when he'd decided to be cold. It was supposed to make me anxious. It used to work. I made myself a sandwich and ate it at the kitchen table with a book I'd been meaning to finish for months. A memoir by a woman who'd built a sheep farm in her 70s. Every page made me feel like something was possible. He came in eventually, leaned against the doorframe. "You're in a mood," he said. "I'm reading," I said. "Same thing lately." He poured himself a glass of water, set it down too hard. "You've been different, Marvy, since winter. I don't know what I did." "You haven't done anything," I said, which was almost true. Then why do I feel like I'm living with a stranger? I looked at him over the top of my book. "Maybe you never stopped." He didn't have an answer for that. He went to bed early. I stayed up reading until the sheep farmer built her 4th pasture fence, and then I made notes in my legal pad, and then I slept better than I had in months. He found the paperwork on a Thursday. I hadn't hidden it well. Or rather, I hadn't hidden it at all because I'd left it on the kitchen counter on purpose to see what he would do. It was a copy of the deed, my name only. No changes, no additions, exactly as it had always been. But I'd highlighted my name in yellow and left it open, and gone out to the garden to pull weeds. He came out 20 minutes later holding the papers. "What is this?" he asked. "The deed to my house," I said, without looking up from the tomatoes. "Why is it out? I was reviewing it." A pause. "Is there something you want to say to me?" I sat back on my heels and looked at him. He was standing in the afternoon sun, looking uncomfortable, the way men do when they realize they've been caught thinking about something they hadn't done yet. "Is there something you want to say to me?" I asked. He shifted his weight. "Kelsey mentioned. She thought maybe it would make sense, for stability, if we—" "No," I said. "You don't even know what I was going to." "I do," I said, "and the answer is no." He stared at me. He wasn't used to that word. Not from me, not in that tone, not without the apologetic softening I used to add automatically. "You're being paranoid," he said. "No," I said, "I'm being clear. There's a difference." He went inside. The door didn't slam, which surprised me. Either he was learning or he was thinking. I wasn't sure which concerned me more. That night, I called my sister in Tucson. She had the original deed. She had a copy of my updated will. She had the number of my lawyer and instructions not to let anyone into my affairs without my direct, verbal confirmation. "You doing okay?" she asked. "Better than I've been in a while," I told her, and I meant it. He left on a Friday morning without saying he was leaving. I came downstairs, and the coffee wasn't made, which told me something was off, because Stuart made the coffee every morning, not out of kindness, but because he liked it strong and he didn't trust me to make it right. His boots were gone from the hallway. His jacket wasn't on the hook. The chair with the loose leg sat empty and slightly crooked. I stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment. Then I made the coffee myself. It was perfect, exactly as strong as I liked it. I sat at the table with my mug, the one with the painted morning glories, the one he'd called aggressively cheerful every single time I used it, and I drank it slowly and looked out the window at the yard. The tomatoes were coming in nicely. I'd have to stake a few before the weekend. He texted around noon, taking some time, clearing my head. Don't read too much into it. I set the phone face down and went out to the garden. His daughter called on Sunday. "He's staying with me for a few days," she said, and her voice had that careful quality of someone walking across ice. "He's upset. He says things have been tense." "They have," I agreed. "He loves you, know. He's not good at saying it. He's not good at a lot of things," I said pleasantly. A pause. "I hope you two can work it out." "Kelsey," I said. I hope the same for you, truly. But I want you to know something, and I want you to know it clearly, so there's no confusion later. I kept my voice even. This house is mine. My name is on the deed. It has been for 30 years. Nothing about that is going to change, and if anyone suggests otherwise, to me, to my lawyer, to my sister, to anyone, I will know exactly what conversation we're actually having. Do you understand? A longer pause. Yes, I understand. Good, I said. Thank you for calling. I hung up and sat very still for a moment. My hands weren't shaking. I was a little surprised by that. Then I made lunch, and it was quiet, and the quiet was mine. He came back 9 days later. I heard the truck before I saw it. I was on the porch reading, and I heard the familiar rattle of the engine, and I folded the corner of my page very deliberately and set the book in my lap and waited. He came up the porch steps slowly, which was not like him. He was carrying a bag from the bakery downtown, the one with the good scones, and he held it slightly in front of him, like a small white flag. I was an idiot, he said. You were, I agreed. He sat on the porch steps, not in the chair, not beside me. The steps, that was new. I shouldn't have let Kelsey put ideas in my head. She looks at things like a transaction. That's not how I think about us. I waited. I don't want your house, Marvy. He stopped, started again. I want things to go back to how they were. Which part? I asked. He looked at me. What do you mean? Which part do you want to go back to? The part where I paid for groceries you ate and bills you ignored. The part where I stopped speaking up because you made me feel foolish for it. The cruise you booked with my card without asking me. Which part did you miss? His mouth opened. Closed. Because I'll tell you what I missed, I said. My own kitchen in the morning, making coffee the way I like it, not hearing my clothes described as sad, not watching someone assess my home with his daughter like it's real estate they haven't purchased yet. I kept my voice steady. I missed feeling like I was in my own life. He looked at the yard for a long time. A car passed on the street. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked once and stopped. I didn't know it was that bad, he said quietly. I know you didn't, I said. That's part of the problem. He left the scones. He didn't ask to come inside. When he stood to go, he looked older somehow. Not smaller, just older, like something had caught up with him that he hadn't been expecting. Can I call you? He asked. You can, I said. I may not answer. He nodded, went to his truck, drove away without slamming the door. I opened the bakery bag. Cranberry orange scones, still warm, my favorite. He'd remembered that at least. I ate one, slowly, standing on my porch, looking at my yard, in my house, on my street. The afternoon was clear and mild. 2 houses over, Mrs. Abernathy was walking her little beagle. She waved. I waved back. Inside, I went to the cookbook shelf and pulled out the Filipino cuisine book. I opened it to page 47, where the legal pad lived. I drew a single line under the last entry. Then I wrote, "He left the scones, didn't ask to come in." Progress, maybe. Doesn't matter either way. My son called that evening. He lives in Portland now, 2 kids, a job he loves, a wife I'm genuinely fond of. He calls on Sundays mostly, but sometimes in the middle of the week when he's thought of something and can't wait. "How are you, Mum?" he asked. "Better," I said. "Actually better. Stuart. Gone for now. Maybe for good." A pause. "You okay with that?" I thought about it. The honest answer, not the easy one. "I'm more okay with it than I expected to be," I said. "I think I'd been practicing for a long time." He was quiet a moment. "You know you can come visit, or we could come to you. Any time." "I know," I said. "Come in October. The tomatoes will be done, but the porch will be perfect." He laughed. We talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important and everything that was. After I hung up, I sat in the living room with just the one lamp on, the way I'd always liked it, the way no one else had ever seemed to understand. The house was quiet, not an empty quiet, a settled one. I looked around at the room, the furniture I'd chosen, the photographs I'd arranged, the shelves of books that were mine and always had been. There was no dent in the couch cushion from someone else's habits, no remote control wedged in the wrong place. Just my things, in my space, arranged the way they made sense to me. I didn't feel triumphant. I want to be clear about that. There was no moment of fists in the air, no score being settled. It wasn't like that. What I felt was something quieter and more durable, like coming in from a long walk and finally sitting down, like the particular relief of a door that locks from the inside. I went to bed early and slept through the night for the first time in longer than I could remember. 3 weeks passed, then 4. He called twice. I answered once, briefly, to say I was fine and I'd be in touch when I was ready, and I meant it in the way that might or might not ever happen. His daughter did not call again. I did not read whatever she'd written in the card I found in my mailbox. I carried it inside, set it on the hall table for a day and a half, and then put it, unopened, in the recycling. Some words are not for me to receive. Some doors are better left. What I did instead was this. I called Bertie, and we had lunch at the Thai place on Morrison that we'd been saying we'd go to for 2 years. I ordered the thing I wanted, not the thing that would be easy to split. We talked for 3 hours. When we hugged in the parking lot, she said, "You seem like yourself again." I didn't know how to explain that I was working on what that meant, but I was closer than I'd been. I signed up for a watercolor class at the community center, not because I expected to be good at it, because I'd always wanted to, and no one was there to call it a waste of time. I repainted the guest room, a pale sage green that I'd had in my head for years and never acted on. Stuart had called it a depressing color the one time I'd mentioned it. Alone, with a roller and an afternoon and a playlist of songs I'd loved at 35, it looked exactly right. I found the card my mother had written me when I bought this house. It was tucked inside a box I hadn't opened since the move. Her handwriting, loopy and certain, said, "This is yours. Keep it yours. Love, Mum." I pinned it to the inside of the kitchen cupboard door, where I'd see it every morning. My granddaughter called the following Sunday. She's 16, curious about everything, and has strong opinions about music that I mostly pretend to understand. She asked what I'd been up to. "Getting my house back," I said. "Did someone take it?" "Someone tried," I said, "but I'm better at paperwork than I look." She thought about that. "That's actually kind of badass, Grandma." "Language," I said, "but thank you." We talked for a while. When she hung up, I sat for a moment in the afternoon light, with the feeling that she understood more than she'd let on, and more than I'd meant to say. That's the thing about the young sometimes. They hear the version you didn't know you were telling. It's been a little over 2 months now. I wake up when I want to. I make the coffee exactly the way I like it. I leave the good mug on the counter instead of in the back of the cabinet. Some mornings I sit on the porch with a crossword and nothing else, and don't speak to anyone until noon, and the silence doesn't feel like absence anymore. It feels like room. I started talking to my neighbor, Mrs. Abernathy, more than I used to. She's 81, sharper than anyone gives her credit for, and she makes an apple cake that should be studied by scientists. We have coffee on alternating Tuesdays. She doesn't ask about Stuart. I don't bring him up. We talk about the garden and the neighborhood, and occasionally about what it means to get to a certain age and still be surprised by what you're capable of. "I thought I'd be quieter by now," she said once. "I thought old age was when things stopped mattering." "Does it feel that way?" I asked. She laughed. "Lord, no. It feels like the first time anyone ever left me alone to think. I understood that down to the bone. Here is what I know now that I didn't know 3 years ago, or didn't know the way you know something when you've lived it all the way through. You don't have to be loud to be strong. You don't have to explain yourself to people who've already decided what you are. You don't have to set fire to something to leave it. You just have to know what's yours. Protect it quietly. Stop waiting for permission to live the way you already know you want to live. The deed is in my name. The accounts are in my name. The house, my house on my street with my tomatoes in the yard and my morning glories on the mug, and my mother's handwriting on the inside of the cupboard door, is mine. He thought the arrangement we had was permanent. He thought comfortable meant settled. He thought I was the kind of woman who would rather keep the peace than keep herself. He was wrong. And the nicest part, the part I think about when the morning is good and the coffee is right and the porch is quiet, is that I never had to raise my voice to show him. I just had to stop lowering it. If you stayed with me this long, maybe you needed to hear some part of this. Maybe you've been quieter than you wanted to be. Maybe someone's been treating your home like a layover and your life like a convenience. It's not too late to write the list. It's not too late to call the lawyer. It's not too late to open a separate account, change the locks, or simply sit at your own kitchen table and drink your coffee out of the good mug without anyone telling you it looks cheap. You don't need a dramatic exit, you just need a quiet, steady decision. And then you need to make it. I've thought a lot about cause and effect since Stuart left, not in a dramatic way, not replaying every conversation or keeping score, more like sitting quietly with the whole shape of it and noticing how each small thing led, inevitably, to the next. He came in through a leaky faucet. That's the honest truth of it. He arrived when I was vulnerable enough to confuse helpfulness with goodness, when I was lonely enough to let comfort masquerade as care, and I let him stay because I thought that's what a reasonable woman does. She gives things time, she extends good faith, she doesn't make accusations she can't prove. None of that was wrong of me, but none of it protected me either. What I've come to understand is this. The way a person treats what isn't theirs tells you everything about who they are. Stuart never asked to be added to my bank alert. He just did it. He never asked to book the cruise with my card. He just did it. He never sat down and said, "Honestly, I'd like to have more security here. Can we talk about it?" He moved around the edges of my life like a man who was waiting to inherit something he hadn't earned, from someone who hadn't agreed to leave it to him. That's not love. That's strategy dressed in a warm jacket. And here's the part I had to sit with. I am not blameless in how long it lasted. Every time I stayed quiet when I should have spoken, every time I smoothed over something because I didn't want the tension, I was teaching him that silence meant consent. I was choosing peace in the moment at the cost of peace in the long run. That's a trade I won't make again. The decision to protect myself didn't come from anger. Anger fades. It came from something steadier, a kind of clarity that only shows up when you stop pretending you don't already know what you know. The moment I saw my name flagged on that bank account without my permission, I knew. I'd known for a while before that, if I was honest. I just hadn't been ready to act on it. Acting on it required a kind of courage that doesn't look like courage from the outside. It looked like phone calls, like appointments with my lawyer, like writing careful notes in a legal pad inside a cookbook. It looked like a woman going quietly about her business, while someone else assumed she wasn't paying attention. But I was paying attention. I was paying more attention than I had in years. Marvine, this version of me, the one who changed the account and called the lawyer and said no without apology. She didn't appear overnight. She was built slowly, out of every moment I chose to see clearly instead of look away. If you're somewhere in the middle of your own version of this, not sure yet, not ready yet, still hoping things will shift on their own, I want to tell you what I wish someone had told me earlier. The clarity will come. You don't have to force it, but when it does, don't talk yourself out of it. Don't smooth it over one more time. Write it down if you have to. Call the person you trust. Take the quiet, undramatic step that no one else will even notice. That's where the real life is. In the steady, small decisions made without an audience. You already know what they are. You've known for a while.